Sky Squad, we are back in the building and we have got to talk about this interview that Carlos King did with Tami Roman on the Reality with the King podcast. She spilled so much tea about basketball wives, about her career. And let me tell you something. To me, and I think I said this in the comments of the post that he made on the gram, I said basically this, Tami Roman has had such a storied career in the world of entertainment. She really is literally the blueprint for how to maintain your relevancy, go after what it is that you want in this business, and also learn your value, learn when it's time to pivot and turn the page, and how to keep a job, okay, especially in this world of entertainment. So listen, to me, I feel like this was as much of a tea spilling session as it was a masterclass in how to navigate the world of entertainment. And to be honest with you, it just really just set my soul on fire today to listen to this. So as we break it down, of course, the link will be in the description so that you guys can hear it. But in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the things that she said and the implications that it means for the world of reality TV in general, is particularly especially related to basketball wives. Okay, so grab yourself some tea, some coffee or whatever, and prepare to indulge with me in this discussion about Tami Roman as it relates to her time on Basketball Wives and all of the tea that was spilled from behind the scenes that you probably never knew. Okay, now speaking about how she got involved with Basketball Wives, Tami says that she really thought that she was done with reality after doing The Real World and was studying acting with Kim Fields' mom, because as you guys know, Kim Fields' family is literally acting royalty in this business. And if you didn't know, now you know. But she says that, she ended up getting married, and after 7 years, she ended up being divorced from her husband, Kenny, who was also a basketball player. And then for about 8 months, she was on EBT. Now, the EBT situation came up on Basketball Wives, but she felt like they had painted that into her entire existence, which was not the case. Here is a breakdown of exactly why Tami was on the EBT when she got to Basketball Wives, or at least before she got to Basketball Wives. This is what happened. So she ended up getting cast on a show called Wifey. Now, Wifey was going to be executive produced by Queen Latifah, and it was a partnership by VH1 and BET that was going to be the first of its kind as a hybrid partnership between two networks. Now, the premise for this show, this is where it gets interesting. The premise of this show, Wifey, was going to be like the original Empire. It even had her and Terrence Howard, and a similar premise to Empire, featuring a record executive who I think at some point either has his life taken or whatever, but the wife ends up taking over the record label. Now, to me, this is just interesting because can you see the Tami Roman that we know now playing a role similar to that of a Cookie Lion? And I gotta tell y'all, I can see it. I can definitely see it. So anyway, they apparently got their pickup letters, and she packed up her mom and her kids and moved from California to New Jersey, where they were going to be filming, and they ended up being there for a year. Why? Well, it was because BET and VH1 allegedly could not reach a negotiation on the deal. So after a year, and guys, a lot of times these shows take a long time to get picked up and a long time to film and a long time to air. So she said she had exhausted her savings, and she ended up going to work for Morgan Stanley in the administrative department. Now, at this point in time, she was making, money, pretty good money, at Morgan Stanley. But, because she's a hustler, she was like, yo, it's expensive to live in New York City. So I'm about to, use my resources and get my hustle on and get these good EBT cards and this good food stamps that I'm due. You know what I'm saying? And for that, to be quite honest with you, that's just plain smart if you ask me, because if you're able to get it and you qualify for it and you do get it, I guess for her, she felt like this is what the system owed her. Okay. Now, a lot of you guys may have different opinions about that, but I understood where she was coming from with this. Okay. So then right before that, though, she was on a series called Moonlight for CBS. But that series had ended up getting canceled, which led her to also working at Morgan Stanley. And then she was also on the bench, so to speak, waiting for this new show to start filming for Wifey. Okay, so Wifey never comes to fruition. Anyway, some lady ended up seeing her on the train, she said, and recognizing her, I guess, from Moonlight. And she went home and she really thought about her life and where she was. And she was like, why am I in this space that I'm in right now? So she says she saw a marathon of Basketball Wives on VH1. Okay. Now, this was from the first season, and she felt like she could really relate to that. And she didn't see anybody on there representing someone like her who had been married to a basketball player, but was now living this life, taking the subway to work every day, headed down to Wall Street or whatever. And so she called VH1 herself and pitched herself for Basketball Wives after that first season. She said she ended up being referred to Shed Media. So one of those producers who was at Shed Media used to work on The Real World and actually remembered her. So then they linked her to Shaunie on the show as Shaunie's friend. But she did not really know Shaunie. She knew of Shaunie because when she and Kenny were together, they lived in the same community as Shaq. So they played it on the show like they were actually friends. Because as you guys know, with reality TV, you got to have your inroads, into the group. And that was her inroads, right? So then she says, because they talked about that moment between her and Evelyn Lozada where, it is revealed that, at least to Tami, that Evelyn had also had, history with Kenny, who is the ex of Tami, right? So she says she didn't really know she was making a moment because at that point in time, there weren't really like moments for reality TV. And she hadn't really been on since about sometime in the 90s up until like 2008. So this was all new to her. So her intention was only to get on the show, be herself, and tell her story. And to take things even further, she was actually working Monday through Friday at Morgan Stanley. And then on the weekends, she was flying down to Miami. Okay, so she was only filming on the weekends at the time. This all makes me want to go back and rewatch season 1 of Basketball Wives so that I can really, now with a better perspective, watch this story unfold, knowing what we know now, especially in this, as we review what was said, right? So apparently, when Evelyn called her a non-mother-freaking factor, she said, for her, she was shocked and she was just living in the moment at that moment because, she didn't understand how Evelyn could possibly be her friend. Because for her, it wasn't just based on this idea that, Evelyn slept with Kenny, because she said she felt like she had heard that everybody slept with this man. But it was really based on Evelyn knowing this information, smiling in her face, and everybody else knowing but not telling her. So then here's the tea though. She says that the next day, Evelyn actually called her, apologized to her, because for Evelyn's perspective, at least allegedly from what she told Tami, based on what Tami told Carlos, is that Evelyn allegedly apologized to her because she says that production had led her to believe that Tami already knew about her past with Kenny. So they actually had drinks that very next day and they hung out. But then she says when they went into next season and Evelyn had the t-shirts, the non-mother-freaking factor t-shirts, she realized, oh, wait, like, this is not how we ended things. So this is different from me. Like, what's happening right here? She says, and in this season is when she realized that there's a game to be played in reality TV. So she said in the scene in Dolce, remember that was Evelyn's little shoe shop? And I don't want to say little because I hate to disrespect the business like that, but you remember her shoe store or whatever. Anyway, she says that scene was improvised. She says there was actually nothing on those papers that were supposed to represent legal documentation, but they knew they had to give the season a moment. They had to give the season something. So from season 3 moving forward, she says that's when the acting Tami came through and she learned to play the game of reality TV. She says her own personal stories that she was going through were true, but her interactions with others were her acting as an amped up version of herself for the cameras. Like, you know, on reality TV, this is definitely a big part of what goes into it, is that you sort of have to become an amplified version of yourself, you know, so that you can give the scene what you need to give it and everybody can go home. Because if you don't, okay, if ain't nothing happening, then we ain't got nothing to work with, okay? She says that she doesn't need any liquid courage to do anything because, you know, she's a trained actress, so she knows how to deliver. She says that she was drunk when she mushed Mika, okay? She says she didn't need any liquid courage for that, but she felt like that was also a low point for her because she actually does like Mika. But in the moment, she says she feels like Mika was lying, and because she was drunk, that's the reason why she ended up mushing her. But when she watched it back, she felt like she needed to apologize to her because the scene didn't require all that. And she says that Mika was gracious enough to accept her apology, but she feels bad because Mika now has to live with this afterwards. You know, with people talking about, well, that's why Tami mushed you. And, you know, Carlos likened it to Portia and Kenya at that reunion where, you know, Portia dragged Kenya and says that Kenya has had to continuously live with Portia's fans saying that's why she mushed you. So then that led them to talking about the purse stealing moment, okay? Which it really wasn't a stealing moment, but, you know, it led people to think that Tami was stealing Keisha's purse. Because according to Tami, Keisha knew that the producers wanted a scene, and Keisha ended up letting them run with the narrative that Tami bullied her for her purse. So apparently, here's how things had gone down. So, well, before we get to what happened afterwards, let me tell you what happened initially. On the way down to their trip, Tami was shown by Shaunie footage of Keisha talking smack about Tami throughout the season, okay? So that had already worked Tami up. So apparently, okay, nothing was happening on the trip. Jennifer was staying in her room, okay, and nobody really wanted to mess with Kenya. So for 3 days, nothing was really happening. So the producers asked them to bring something, okay? Bring something to the table, okay? Because, you know, nothing was really being like, there wasn't no drama going on, man. And so apparently, you know, this was an agreement from production and Keisha and Tami that, hey, we're going to make something pop. And so when Keisha ends up running off, you know, acting afraid, you know, for Tami, she was like, well, we just acting. So, I mean, you know, like, this is what it is and whatever. She does say she regrets going through Keisha's purse because she felt like, you know, she shouldn't have done that. But she does feel like she was betrayed by the producers, the network, and Shaunie, because later on, after all of the social media backlash, Shaunie had to go back and do a pickup scene addressing all of the aggression in the show. I don't know if you guys remember that. And Tami spilled the tea that Keisha was also dating or messing around with one of the producers, okay? So we ain't know all that. So she just feels like the editing with that left her out to dry. But, you know, she kind of had to keep quiet about it because at that point in time, what you don't do is, you know, out production. Anyway, she says her last season, she felt like, you know, Shaunie chose her friendship with Evelyn more than she chose her friendship with Tami. And Tami felt like boundaries were crossed because she says that Evelyn admitted to sending letters to the producers about her and her personal business and lie. And then she admitted those things. And then, that started a whole train of BS for Tami. And she felt like they were trying to break her behind the scenes because she was equally as successful as Evelyn. She also felt like the loyalty from the EPs were to Shaunie and Evelyn, which meant that they always got the better edit. And that reunion, she says that because she left early, things were shown out of sequence to make her look like the aggressor. She says that Evelyn was spreading lies about her and Shaunie was backing Evelyn up. And then Evelyn was going to production about her, and the production and executives were having high-level conversations about Tami via email. And apparently Evelyn allegedly admitted to sending letters, but the audience at the time glossed over it and they made it seem like Tami talked about Evelyn's eggs first, but that's not the way it allegedly happened. She says the very last season she was on the show, she opted not to get a raise, not to extend any options, and she made it a requirement that she not film with Evelyn, okay? So they talked about the show needing to have a lead on there. And, right now they don't have a lead because Jen knows that she's not a lead. So she also talks about not being invited to Shaunie's wedding, but she says that she don't know why she would have been and that they have not spoken to each other since she left the show. She did reach out to Shaunie when she heard her father pass, but, she says that Shaunie reached back out and said, thank you for that. And she says, if I've ever done anything to hurt you over the years, I'm sorry. And, Tami thanked her with a thumbs up. And so they do have closure. So with regards to her new show, she is a consulting producer, which is bomb because she says she added ideas during the development phase. So they were gracious enough to give her that credit. When it talks about going back to reality TV, she kind of really says that Caught in the Act is under the umbrella of reality TV. And she says she tried to get on Real Housewives 2 times, but wasn't afforded the opportunity, which is interesting to me because the Tami now, I think would be an amazing cast member on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. But I also think she would be also amazing on the Real Housewives of Potomac because I felt like she said in an interview prior to this that she would love to go on Potomac and really give some backup to Karen, the Grand Dame. She also says that she would like to go back into reality if it's something that hasn't been done before. She also spilled the tea that she has a new show for BET. It's a scripted drama that launches in August, okay? And she helmed that show, which means that she's a producer on that show. She talks about her health issues and suffering from body dysmorphia and going through therapy. But listen, that was the tea that was spilled by Tami Roman about Basketball Wives. It was so, wild, man. Like, you got to take a listen to this if you haven't already done so. The link is in the description down below. Now, let me know your thoughts about all of this in the description, in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.